And speaking of fresh, new Republican ideas, when you're talking about an attack on a diplomatic compound in the Middle East and accountability for an administration that had Americans die on its watch, and generally policy making in the broader Middle East region that undermined American securities and cost us our lives, who better to talk to than Dick Cheney? Because obviously we all know under Dick Cheney's watch, yeah, there's no terrorist attacks under my watch, say. There's no problems and threats to our national security, say. September 11th is what you call a mulligan in golf, say. Who better to ask about that? Who better to ask about Benghazi than a man who will obviously never face any accountability for his war crimes or even serious public shaming for his profound incompetence? Dick Cheney. And Dick Cheney, talking with Chris Wallace on Fox News, says that there is a line that needs to be drawn with Benghazi, and that line is accountability, because Dick Cheney is profoundly, passionately committed to accountability. The same man who went to the mat for Donald Rumsfeld, did not want him fired. The same man who didn't speak to George Bush for not fully pardoning Scooter Libby after he leaked Valerie Plane's name. This is the accountability guy.
The guy couldn't even be held accountable for accidentally shooting his friend when they went on a hunting outing.
Don't get in the way of my buckshots, eh?
Didn't his friend apologize to him because a big deal was made out of him getting shot in the face?
Because that's accountability, my friend. I want a friend who, when I shoot them in the fucking face, says sorry to me. And obviously, Iraq was a great success. All right, so let's listen to this sound.
What do you think about Benghazi? Do you think that she did anything wrong, and should she be held responsible for the events surrounding that attack?
She was Secretary of State at the time that it happened. She was one of the first in Washington to know about it. I think she clearly bears responsibility for whatever the State Department did or didn't do with her.
I'm sorry, I had to interrupt for a second, because that sounds a lot like another event, and who knew about it beforehand. And yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, zero idea. Yeah. Go ahead.
Back to that crisis. I do think it's a major issue. I don't think we've heard the last of it yet. And I would expect that she will be held accountable during the course of the campaign.
Mrs. Cheney, you said recently.
So Dick Cheney.
You want more than you want Lynn Cheney?
No, I can't take it anymore. So Dick Cheney, the apparent architect of the most disastrous administration in American history, the guy who spent his first year in office trying to restore the missile defense scheme in Europe, recreate Star Wars, who couldn't be bothered to get up from his secret energy task force talking with Enron and other oil industry insiders to ask them to give them the store of what they wanted on every single piece of environmental deregulation, fracking deregulation, environmental toxicity, who couldn't be bothered to get off of his ass from those meetings from the first year of the administration, whose boss, when confronted with a memo saying bin Laden determined to strike in U.S., said to the guys who presented this information to him, "All right, you've covered your asses," and then went back to his umpteenth day of vacation. This same guy, and then, of course, September 11th happened, and then in response to their monumental failure that allowed the mass murder of Americans, what did they do? They launched a systemically disastrous global policy that killed endless civilians, killed endless American service members, destroyed the post-Cold War global infrastructure, all while continuing to push us on a path of climate change, climate crisis, fiscal deregulation, and Wall Street giveaways and energy industry giveaways, all of which to leave office in time to bequeath us with a massive global recession, which they helped put in place. This guy's talking about accountability. There's so little to add to that. I mean, that just shows you everything about the astonishing shamelessness of the political class in this country. And it goes, okay, so Dick Cheney's the most extreme example. Donald Rumsfeld's an extreme example. But you know what? It's Tim Geithner, too. Tim Geithner's on a book tour. Sure, you know what? He's unpopular. People are going to write some critical takedowns of him. They're going to talk about his failures in terms of reining in the industry, how the Obama administration failed on housing policy and everything else. But he's going to sit there at Pincus, I think Walter Pincus, collect a massive paycheck, go out, make his case at the various elite institutions. Dick Cheney is going to be on Fox and talk about Benghazi. And the people that Matt Taibbi write about who get caught with a dime bag or, God forbid, listening to music in front of their own apartments are going to go to jail. And an Iraq vet who had his limbs blown off is going to have his house foreclosed on because of policies that were architectured by Dick Cheney, while he goes and sits his smug, bloated, sociopathic face on Fox and talks about Hillary Clinton having accountability for, incidentally, policies that also preceded this administration, because the Obama administration, because they involved cutting funding and security for embassies globally. And of course, let's not talk about all of the embassy attacks that happened under the Bush-Cheney regime. It's disgusting.
Obama.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Obama should apologize to me, you see, for me shooting him in the foot, you see?
See, if I didn't have to talk about this on Fox, it was Obama's fault, see, because if Obama wasn't elected, I wouldn't have been so upset about a black guy getting elected, my heart would be in better shape, Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.